Meanwhile, the United States and Russian diplomats have wrapped up their first round of high-stakes talks in Geneva, with both the sides showing no signs of narrowing their differences on Ukraine. Despite not making much of the progress, diplomats have called the initial talks as useful and frank. The two sides largely spent their 8 hours of talking, presenting their points of view on the current situation that is unfolding along the eastern border in Ukraine. Now, the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister has said that the first round of talks did not make any progress, and the question on Ukraine's possible membership of NATO continues to remain the top focus for the two contingents.
I don't think you will expect me saying otherwise than to confirm that this is one of the areas where we have the greatest difference of views with the U.S. The U.S. suggests that there is no way that Russia or whoever else may have a say on those type of issues. But we underscore that for us it's absolutely mandatory to make sure that Ukraine never ever becomes member of NATO.
The U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman said that the U.S. has offered to make reciprocal moves with Russia to de-escalate tensions, but also has renewed warnings of major costs if Moscow were to invade into Ukraine. The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, meanwhile, has said that the United States and its allies are prepared to impose enormous costs on Russia's economy if Russia were to launch any attack.
If Russia chooses the path of conflict, the United States, our partners and allies, have been clear. We are prepared to impose enormous costs on Russia's economy, reinforce NATO's presence in frontline allied states, and increase our defensive assistance to Ukraine.
Meanwhile, the talks in Geneva were the first of the three sets of talks taking place this week, and there will be Russian consultations with NATO in Brussels on Wednesday and discussions in Vienna with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, or the OSCE, a day later. Now, the United States and NATO have jointly rejected Moscow's demand of banning Ukraine from entering into the bloc. The Moscow, meanwhile, has laid out a detailed list of security guarantees, which also includes a demand that NATO has given up its military activity in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. Russia's military build-up along the Ukrainian border has also sparked concerns of a possible military escalation between Russia and Ukraine. Russia, however, has denied claims of any plans of invading into Ukraine at this point of time. Irani has been tracking the story very closely for us and has sent us this report. Listen.
Both the U.S. and Russian sides are playing down expectations of an immediate deal. That doesn't mean that this week's talks are not important. The Russians will continue negotiations with the Europeans, and at one of those talks, the Ukrainians will be present. At the end of the week, at best, perhaps Vladimir Putin's intentions will be known and whether or not he's serious about a diplomatic path forward. At worst, there may be a likelihood for war, and Vladimir Putin could tell his audience at home that the West was not serious about Russia's security concerns and he had no choice but to take action in Ukraine. Regardless, the talks this week could prove to be detrimental in moving forward regarding setting the diplomatic stage, not only in what happens in Ukraine, but the path forward for Europe's post-Cold War security architecture. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.